And go. Hey, everybody. We are live. I guess that's required to say that if you're doing live stream. You have to say we are live or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, I am Pastor G, and I am joined by a very special guest, Margo. She is going to explain her story. She's got something a story that caught my attention. I met her on a Discord chat with thanks to Blindfold Bethany, which I forgot to put the link in the description, but I will later. Go check out her Twitter because she's got all the hookups. Thanks to her, I met Gingerman Editorial from Finding the Void, which, by the way, Finding the Void is there in my description. Go click on them, subscribe to them. Shameless plug. And thanks to her, I met Andrew Clavin in Hillsdale College, which is just down the road from me. College is literally right there. And then during this whole wonderful quarantine junk, we got to go on a Discord, and there I met Margo, who is from my former neck of the woods. She's around the Chicagoland area, and apparently very fiercely Catholic. So
just a little bit.
I think her and I think Clay was joking around saying something about like, oh no, we're going to have a Protestant Catholic debate, and I said, no, let's just go pick on atheists or something like that. But and here's one thing, and I'm going to have her explain her story, but there's one thing that really links us, and this is what caught my attention, is that she went from religious relativist, hopefully I'm saying that right, to a fiercely, and I'm going to read this, to a fiercely, a trad Catholic. I had to look that up because I'm old, which means traditional. Am I correct on that one?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. And then to a trad Catholic and fiercely conservative. And I'm like thinking, you know what? I know about that.
Oh, yeah, you have yours. I have mine.
Beautiful. That could be, yeah, there you go. That is absolutely, we are united in conservatism. And
yes, Condom and Daily Wire.
Yes, amen to that. You know what? As much as they pick on each other, they are some of the best things that has ever happened to the internet, and I am totally grateful for everybody involved on both ends.
Yes, I've learned so much from Stephen Carter and from everyone at the Daily Wire, especially Michael Knowles and Matt Walsh, my fellow Catholics, but even Ben Shapiro and Clavin, and just everyone over there. It's just been a joy to get to know them just virtually over Twitter and just through their live streams and their shows. So love them.
That is awesome. And Kenneth Toohill saying hi, Margo. So,
oh, hi. He's one of my friends from Facebook. So hi, Kenneth.
Awesome. Well, glad to have you aboard. We have a few people aboard already, and I'll pop up some of the chats when they show up. Okay. Here's the other thing. Like, if people have questions in the chats for Margo or myself, feel free to go ahead and ask. Or just pop in and just say hi. I'll highlight you and I'll put you on there. So I'm going to show up the tweet here that caught my attention with Margo on why we're even doing this in the first place. I'll pop it up there and you guys can see. That's what she tweeted. And I was going through Twitter. I'm like, wait, that sounds really cool. I'm definitely interested to hear that. So I figured I'll go ahead, Margo, and let you, if I get this, oh, there we go. I love it. I'm going to go ahead and let you take away and just start wherever you want to start on that.
Yeah. So a little bit about my journey is that I was born and I guess raised Catholic. Went to Catholic school, was baptized as an infant, and went to Catholic school from kindergarten through 8th grade. At a small Catholic school, there was about 70 kids in my class total. And in that school, I learned a lot about like the facts about the faith. I memorized a lot of prayers because in the Catholic tradition, we have a lot of memorized prayers that we say. And that's basically what I learned, but I never got, this will come up, this will make more sense later in my story, but I never got any explanations, any reasoning why we believe what we believe. It was just like, this is what Catholics believe, memorize this, memorize that, learn these facts, but it was never any explanations as to why. So I finished 8th grade and my parents let me choose if I wanted to go to a public school or Catholic high school. And I decided on a public school because the Catholic high schools in my area are mostly college preparatory schools with more like advanced classes. And I was never really like the brightest, most academically talented student. I didn't even know if I wanted to go to college at the time. So I was like, I don't really want to go to college prep school, and the Catholic schools were kind of snobby and stuff. And I was like, and I was done wearing uniforms. I was just like, after 9 years of having to wear a uniform, I was like, I'm ready to just be able to like wear jeans and stuff to school. So I went to a public high school, and so I went from a class of 70 students to a class of like 800 students in my public high school. So I mean, there was like over 1,200 kids in the school total, but like 800 per grade. So
were you still? Was this in the Chicagoland area or different?
Yeah, I've lived in the Chicago suburbs my whole life. So that's
where I grew up, was the Chicago suburbs. And
yeah, so
night and day, because I live in Hillsdale, Michigan now, and the schools here are like at least half, if not less, than what my class was. Because I went to Addison Trail. Was my freshman year out in Addison, and holy cow, night and day. So I just, you talk about like the amount of populations in the suburbs itself.
Yeah, anyway. And then not only did I go from like 70 kids to 800, I also went from being Catholic to a Catholic only school to being a school with just everyone, you know, I mean, from all different backgrounds, Jewish, Buddhist, probably Muslim, Catholic, Protestant, lots of atheists. So it was a brand new world to me. I was still involved with my parish's youth ministry program, though, so that's how I still was still kind of going through with my faith. But I think it was just I don't really know why I became so relativist, but I think it's being around so many different religions and no religions with atheists that I just started to feel like, like I'm Catholic or Christian, and I believe in God, but not necessarily everyone else has to. I think I was starting to think of just, does it really matter what you believe? I don't think so. As long as you're a quote unquote good person, as long as you don't do anything bad, does it really matter? So I was just like, I'm going to be Catholic. I don't know. I owe it to the grace of God that I always just believed in God. I always believed in Jesus. None of that was ever a doubt to me. I don't know why I just credit it to a grace of God. I just never doubted his existence, never doubted Jesus. I never went through an atheist experience myself. But in terms of Catholic versus Protestant, what kind of Christian I wanted to be, I was doing my parish's youth ministry program for the first 2 years of high school. We had an amazing youth minister who was just so much fun. I got really close to him, considered him a really close friend and mentor. And then at the end of my sophomore year of high school, he announced he was going to be leaving, moving to a different suburb. So we wouldn't be around anymore. And I was totally devastated at the time when he announced that, because I was super close to him. He was someone I looked up to. He was like my role model in the faith. And then he was like, oh yeah, I'm not going to be here next year. So I was like, okay. Okay, so, and then we didn't really get the best youth minister after that. It was like one of those situations where it was like, we have really big shoes to fill. And the next guy who came just wasn't that good. So I started, so I knew I needed a different activity to get involved with. So during sophomore year of high school in the spring semester, I was taking government class, and my teacher for that class also happened to be the cross-country coach, the girls' cross-country coach at my high school. And I really got along with him. It was another thing. He reminded me of my youth minister, very kind, very inspirational, always willing to help out students and teach them life lessons and stuff. So then I found out he was a cross-country coach, and even though I never had really run before, I was like, what, I need a new activity. The youth ministry is kind of falling apart. I'm going to try running, because I kind of do things on whims sometimes. So I was like, I remember I went up to him after class one day, and I was like, Iverson, I'm thinking about doing cross-country next season. What do I need to do? How do I get myself ready for the season in the fall? And I remember him telling me that they had a summer camp that they do, and by the time the summer camp started in June, I think I had come up to him in April. He was like, by the time the camp starts in June, you need to be able to run for a half hour straight without stopping. And I was like, okay, 30 minutes straight of running without stopping. That was kind of overwhelming to me because I'd like not really run before, but I needed a different activity to do. So, and my sister had run cross country when she was in high school. She went to the Catholic school in our town actually, but I went to the public school. But she did cross country, and I was like, I'm never going to do cross country. I don't like running; it's too hard. I don't like it. But then I was like, just going to try it. So I went for it, and I ended up loving cross country. That was my thing that I did for junior and senior year of high school. That was my thing. That was my passion. Was cross country and running. And then how this also relates to my story is that in Iverson's government class, that's where I first got into politics, I guess. Not really strongly, but he was more on the liberal side. So I got to be kind of liberally indoctrinated. I didn't even realize I was being indoctrinated, but he was like showing clips of The Daily Show with Jon Stewart during class.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll hand Jon Stewart some credit. The guy's cool. I like him.
He is funny. Like he was funny, but he definitely had a liberal bent to him. And so it's funny now how I tell people now, it's like I went from watching The Daily Show to watching The Daily Wire, which is like the exact opposite.
You've done the 180 right there.
From Jon Stewart to like Michael Knowles and Ben Shapiro, totally different. But
by the way, more talent.
Yeah,
But same plug on them too.
Yeah, anyway, so that was funny too. That's a part of my story too. Like that, I was kind of liberally indoctrinated. Then I took another one of his social. I had the same teacher. My cross country coach was my teacher again, junior year of high school. Oh, hi, Carl. Yeah. Carl, I had him for junior year as well, and that was when in that class he had us reading Howard Zinn. So the People's History of the United States, which is funny. I did not know, again, like in high school, it's very important to understand that in high school, I was very ignorant. Didn't really know. I was just kind of like a teenager, kind of floundering and kind of, oh, hi, Adam. I was kind of just floundering and just not really sure what to think about things. I was just kind of taking everything in. So I didn't think much of reading Howard Zinn. I just knew it was kind of like an alternative to most history books that you would have in high school. I knew it was kind of different, but I didn't really know why. So I'm just kind of reading this, taking this in. Years later now I'm realizing like, whoa, why did I read that? But at the time I was like, okay, this seems fine. I don't know. So I'm doing that. Then I'm also still going through my youth ministry program a little bit to finish up preparation for the Catholic sacrament of confirmation, which is when you receive the gifts of the Holy Spirit. And you get it at all different ages in the Catholic faith. But at the time I received it the spring of my junior year of high school. So I went through, and so that's when I finished the youth ministry program, was after I got that sacrament. And unfortunately at the time it was wrongly explained to me as it was kind of like a Catholic bat mitzvah or a Catholic kind of graduation where it's like your parents can no longer force you to go to mass on Sundays. Like you're an adult in the faith now. You can choose to practice the faith however you want. Your parents can't force you to do anything anymore. So being a typical teenager, I was like, oh, sweet. I don't have to go to boring mass anymore in the mornings. And so, of course, I was like, okay, I'm not going to go to mass anymore. Who needs that? And so I was just like, okay, I'm not going to go to mass anymore. And then senior year of high school, I find this group. I don't know if you've heard of them, but it's a Protestant group called Young Life.
Yes. I actually went to Young Life myself.
Okay, yeah. So I got involved with that senior year. Some of my friends were getting involved with that, and they were like, "Oh, you should come to this Young Life Bible study." They thought that I would really enjoy it, and so I did. Again, it was a lot of fun, and it was there that I just kind of abandoned the Catholic faith a little bit, and I was kind of just like, you know what, I'm just gonna do Young Life, and I was just kind of happy just being a Christian, just like not having the label Catholic, Protestant, or anything. It was just, and I thought it was enough to just read the Bible, pray to God, when I needed him, God, please help me to do a good job in this test, please help me to get an A, that sort of thing, and just kind of be like, God, I love you. Okay. I thought it was just fine. Reading my Bible, going to Bible study, hanging out with other Christians, thought everything was cool. And then I went to a Young Life summer camp in Minnesota. It was called Castaway. After the summer after my senior year, I went there, and it was a lot of fun. I mean, I got to go do all the stuff on boats and be near the beach and stuff, and go zip lining and have all this stuff. And they had different skits. And there was this one time that really stuck out to me though during that week of the Young Life summer camp where we had some time for just personal prayer and just kind of quiet prayer, journaling. And I distinctly remember asking God and just praying to God, being like, God, I don't really know what I'm doing anymore. Like, am I Catholic? Am I Protestant? I really don't know. By that point, I had decided to go to college. I was going to attend Bradley University down in Peoria, Illinois. And I knew that I wouldn't have Young Life down there in Peoria. So I knew I was going to kind of have to choose, like, what do I want to do with my religion? Do I want to be Protestant? Do I want to be Catholic? Like, which one is true? And even back then, like, I had this notion of, I wanted to know which one was correct. I wanted to know which one was true. Even back then, it's like as an 18-year-old. And so I just remember this time of the Young Life camp where I was like, God, what do you want from me? Like, what do you want me to do? Do you want me to be Catholic? Do you want me to be Protestant? I could kind of see different merits to both Catholic and Protestant. I just didn't know which one was correct, I guess, for lack of a better word. So I was expecting God to, like, suddenly, instantly reveal it to me. There would be, like, this great, big, dramatic thing where, like, I'd receive a mystical vision and God would be like, Margo, I want you to be Catholic. No such thing happened. It was just kind of, like, silent. God just kind of was like, okay, I'm just gonna make you wait and a little bit of something. Nothing really happened. Just went on with the rest of the week. The prayer time ended, and I just went back to having fun with my friends. Then I get to Bradley. I think this was probably like a month or two later, I would get to Bradley. Didn't really know anyone. We had this thing called Welcome Week, which is like where you have all these different fun activities for the beginning of college. And so the Newman Center at my college, and Newman Centers are famous, Catholic campus ministries across the country, though usually on the campuses of non-Catholic universities. So the particular Newman Center at my college, every year they have a big giant cookout at the beginning of Welcome Week for the whole school. Like, they cook for like 1,000 hamburgers, hot dogs. So I remember going over there, knew absolutely no one, went through the line, got my food, and then, you step out into like this giant courtyard and parking lot. They have all these different tables set up, and it's kind of like the first day of high school. You're in the cafeteria, and you're like, oh my gosh, who do I sit with? Which table do I sit at? I don't know anyone. Who are you people? And you're just really overwhelmed. So I just was like, I'm just going to sit at a table. And then some of the Newman student leaders came and sat down with me and a few other people who had joined me, and they were just super welcoming, super friendly, put me at ease pretty much right away. And then so we just started talking and stuff, and then one of them gave me a tour of the Newman Center. It's a small building. Some of the Newman Centers on college campuses are dormitories. Mine was not. It was just a kind of like a house kind of building. It had like different floors. It had a nice, like, on the second floor, it had a nice like study area with different study rooms you could use. On the main level, there was a chapel. There was a TV room where people with a large screen TV where you could like sit and watch TV. There's a kitchen, which is great for college students who don't have like kitchens in their dorms. And so you could cook things, you could watch TV. They had really comfy leather couches, which was a huge appeal to me. Like, I sometimes joke and say that, like, part of the reason why I became Catholic, I went back to Catholicism was because of the comfy couches in myself.
Whatever draws you, right?
Yes, I mean, that was what got me. So I really liked the homey atmosphere. Just, it was very comforting atmosphere there. And then they also, then I saw this one, I think he was a junior, walk by named Jonathan. He walked by and he was wearing the shirt that said the Newman Runners on it. And so I was like, Newman Runners. So I was like, what's that? Like, I was still into running and stuff. I didn't want to run cross country competitively in college. I was kind of done with being competitive because, again, just like being a student, I was kind of just an average runner. I wasn't like top of the pack or anything. I wasn't super slow. I wasn't super fast. I was just kind of average. So I didn't really want to do it competitively in college, but I was still looking for like a running club or a running group to get involved with. So when I saw this student named Jonathan walk by wearing the Newman Runners t-shirt, I was just like, oh my gosh, is there a running group here? And he was like, oh yeah, we go running sometimes. We do a half marathon in the spring. And I was just like, wow, that sounds really cool. So then he invites me to go running with him a few days later. And that was actually one of the things that helped me to go on the faith, is that we would talk about theology and stuff while we would go running together. He would kind of teach me stuff about the faith and stuff, and again, give me the reasons. So it was there, the Newman Center. I just felt home. Like I just felt like a lot of peace there. And then so I slowly started going there more and more to study, to hang out. I started meeting people there and getting to be friends with all the crazy people there. And just like kind of now on Twitter, there's like all the different kinds of people. There were like the nerds, there were kind of like the average people. And so I guess some of my friends now on Twitter are talking about playing Minecraft, and it's funny because some of the engineers who I affectionately termed the engine nerds, they love playing Minecraft too back in college. So I'm just like, oh my gosh, people still love playing Minecraft even now. So it's kind of funny.
Addicted to that stuff.
Yeah.
I played it a little bit. I like it. I don't have time for it.
Yeah, I never really got into it. I would just kind of watch people play and be like, oh, this looks interesting, but kind of nerdy. I don't know. So, but anyway, I started spending more and more time at the Newman Center. And then in November of my freshman year, they had a weekend-long retreat called Koinonia, which is a Greek word meaning an intimate sharing of life and love. And so I went on this Koinonia retreat that the student leaders put on for any students who are interested in learning more about the faith. And it was there that I first experienced and first really saw, not just was taught it, but really saw the concept of sacrificial love on display, because some of parts of the weekend are like where the student leaders just really go above and beyond to just put on like an amazing weekend. Like they make this fabulous like fancy dinner on Saturday night called the agape dinner. And again, agape is the Greek word meaning selfless, sacrificial love is the highest kind of love that a person can have for another person. So I saw that on display. Then there was this, it comes to a head on Sunday. There was this, all throughout the weekend, there's this piece of artwork that a student makes for the retreat, and it's based on a theme, or it's based on a saint that is chosen for the weekend. And so we have this beautiful artwork all weekend. Then at the end of the weekend, we'll at a bonfire at the end of the weekend on Sunday. And then all of a sudden, like a letter is read from the artist, and the artwork is thrown into the fire. Actually, it's burned. It's because, and the concept is that you don't need this. So like the person who we don't even know, so as a student, usually it's a graduate, someone who been through Koinonia, who went through Newman Center and had graduated, wasn't around anymore, and decided to do this out of the kindness of their hearts. They put hours and days and weeks and months into making this amazing artwork, knowing that they would never get it back, knowing that it's going to get burned. And so for me, that really affected me, because that really made me think like, wow, like this person doesn't know me, doesn't know anyone else, but they would put in all this time to make this beautiful piece of art, knowing that they would never get it back, knowing that it was going to be burned.
Right.
That left a huge impression on me, because I never really knew. And again, as I was saying before, I never really knew like the reasonings behind the beliefs of the Catholic faith. And I also never knew about sacrificial love, really. I knew that love, for me, love was about affection. Love was like, oh, I like this person makes me feel good. I want to do good things to this person, but not to the point of like sacrificing yourself. And I mean, I knew about like the crucifixion and stuff. I knew that like Jesus was crucified and stuff. But again, to me, that was just kind of like a historical thing. It was more just like, oh yeah, Jesus suffered, died, and rose again. Like that's just something that you learn. You know, you don't really like take it to heart. It's just kind of like something that's in your head, but you don't really take it to heart that like that he died and suffered for me. Like, as if I was the only person there. So that all left an impression on me. Plus then it just so happened that my college was right down the street from the cathedral, where this one guy named Forden Sheen was ordained and used to be an altar server. And Forden Sheen was kind of the Catholic Billy Graham, I would say, of the 1950s. He was super famous in the 1950s. He had a TV show called Life is Worth Living. And he even won an Emmy for it 1 year in the 1950s. And he was just this master evangelist, wrote like 60 books. So I started sometimes attending Mass at the Cathedral in Peoria, and that's when I started to learn about Forden Sheen. And then I started to watch his videos. The episodes of his show are still on YouTube, praise God. So I was starting to watch his videos, started to read his books, and he started guiding me through the faith. He started putting the pieces together and giving me the whys behind the belief. So it wasn't just like Catholics, do this or Catholics do that. It was like, this is why Catholics go to Mass. This is why we believe in the sacraments. This is why we receive the Eucharist. And it just all started it all started coming together and just started making sense to me. And I was just like, okay, like, Catholicism, like I am hooked, like I am just convicted Catholic, like now, like I know I finally got my answer. And again, it was very gradual. It wasn't God just giving me all this knowledge all at once. It wasn't God being like, Margo, I want you to be Catholic. It was more just, again, they say God speaks in whispers, and I think it's true that like it's that still small voice, and he's very gradual, but then also very sudden sometimes too. He can like kind of go slowly, but then kind of also like hit you over the head with a 2x4 sometimes when you need to.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah, and so then so I was starting to learn more about the faith, and then even starting to become more conservative, which I think just went along with the faith, because then I can't remember when it was, but it was some after my freshman year of college or sophomore year of college that I came across this one blog called The Little Catholic Bubble that was run by my now friend Layla Miller. And she doesn't use that blog anymore, but at the time she was really active on the blog. And it was there that I learned how to dialogue with non-Catholics, particularly secularists, atheists, and even Protestants, because she would have, it's kind of like what happens on Twitter, but it was back in the blogging world at the time. Like in her comments section, she would just go at it with all sorts of non-Catholics, and she would bring up the morality of all different kinds of things. And that's when I started to learn about like the morality side of Catholicism. That's when I started to learn about like why contraception is wrong, why abortion is wrong, even because in high school I was very wishy-washy. Like I was like, yeah, I know it's better to be pro-life, but like what about rape? What about this and that? So I had the exceptions when I was in high school with abortion. Like I was like, I know it's wrong, but it didn't really hit me that it was like killing a baby at the time in high school. I was like, abortion it's a bad thing. Like you don't want to have abortion, but if you have these extenuating circumstances. But then through Layla's blog, I started to again get more explanations about why these things are wrong and why abortion is completely wrong in all circumstances. I started to learn how to dialogue and how to explain why it's wrong, even in the cases of rape and whatnot. I learned about contraception, the big one, homosexuality, even. I mean, she covered all different issues. She covered purgatory, the saints, Mary, all these different things. And I started to learn how to charitably go back and forth and how with non-Catholics through reading her blog. And so I think that's when I kind of gradually started becoming conservative, was just because I was like, well, liberals are all, starting to be rainbow flags, and they're all like, Planned Parenthood and, shout your abortion, all that. So now I was just like, no, I don't like this. And I was getting so conservative that during the junior year of college, it was revealed that I can't remember when it was starting, but at some point my college was going to start providing free condoms in the dormitories that was going to be covered by the student health fee. Because, part of tuition is the student health fee and stuff. And so from that, they would take from like tuition money that I was paying. Well, my parents were paying, but from tuition dollars, they were going to make condoms freely accessible in the dorm rooms and in the student health center and stuff. And you're just going to be able to have free condoms. And so I was like, no. Like at that point, I was super like into this virtue of chastity and stuff. And I was just like, no way. So me and some of my other friends from the Newman Center started to do a campaign. We even spoke before the Student Senate, which was kind of intimidating, but we tried. We weren't successful, but we tried to overturn this mandate where our money would be going towards free condoms. We totally failed because my school was a private school, non-religiously. There was no religious affiliation, but it was private. So we were trying to get them to see like, hey, like, this isn't right. Like, not every student wants their money going towards this. This is a lifestyle decision. Right. And right down the street in what's called Campus Town, there's a CVS there. You can easily get condoms there. Why do we have to provide them on campus? Like, and one of my points is like that college is about studying. College is about, preparing for your career or whatever after college. Like, sex and stuff, that's a lifestyle thing. And if like you want to have sex in college, that's your choice, but we shouldn't be paying for it. We shouldn't be providing it. But they were just like, oh, you're crazy. Like, no, students need this. They were like, it's a health thing. It's like medicine or something. I was like, condoms are not medicine, but whatever.
Right.
So
Right.
that's an example of just how conservative I was getting. One of the things I do regret is that I graduated in 2013 from college, and at the time there weren't a lot of internships available. Like now, there's YAF, there's Live Action, there's Daily Wire.
Right.
There's Stephen Crowder has stuff with his show. There's The Blaze. There's all these different like conservative partnerships and all these conservative organizations. There was nothing at the time when I was in college. Like things were kind of just developing. I think like Live Action was just becoming a thing. Like it was in like its newborn stages, and I'm actually only a year younger than Michael Knowles. He graduated, I think, in 2012. I graduated in 2013. So, even like for him, like the Daily Wire wasn't even around yet, didn't exist.
Right.
So, I wish, like, looking back on college, I was like, oh my gosh, look, if I could have had YAF, I wouldn't have felt like such a freak. Because even, in some of my classes, some of the books I was expected to read, I was an English major. So some of the books they were having us read and some of the just different assignments we had, some of the plays that were going on and in the drama department and stuff were just like, they had I don't know if you've heard the vagina monologues.
Yeah.
Which is like this pro-feminist, like, I don't even know. It's just disgusting. It's just
it's just a dumpster fire.
It's just disgusting.
It's a dumpster fire. That's stuff.
Yeah, so there's all this like nasty stuff, and I felt like I had a few friends like in college, like when the Newman Center wasn't like that big. I would say there was maybe like 50 to 75 people probably total active at the Newman Center out of a college of like 1,200 students. So, we were definitely in the minority being like Catholic and conservative. And I was just like, I look back now, I'm just like, oh my gosh, if I had just known about like Young Americans for Freedom, if I had known about like the Daily Wire, I wouldn't have felt like such a freak. I wish I could have like brought out Ben Shapiro to my campus or whatever. Like, and he would have just destroyed the whole condom thing or whatever. Michael Knowles could have just come by and just been like, oh yeah, guys, like, crazy.
And
he would have just like shut them down.
Well, you mentioned that because it's like, okay, so like, and that was really not that long ago.
No, it's not. But it's how fast things have changed. Because there wasn't even any transgender stuff at the time when I graduated college. Now, like, we're having all this transgender debate. We're having all this debate about even pornography and stuff. At the time when I graduated college, I can't remember when the redefinition of marriage was. Was that 2013? I can't remember when that
was 20. It might have been 2013.
Yeah, so I think like Obama was just starting to be a thing and stuff, and obviously Obama was still president at the time. This was long before we had Trump. I remember being like, maybe Mitt Romney will win, like maybe we won't get a second term of Obama. But that didn't happen, which I don't know. I don't know what would have happened with Romney.
I don't know.
Than Obama.
Because Romney really disappointed me, and I voted for him because to me he was still better than Obama.
He was better than Obama.
Yeah, but oh my gosh, my houseplant's better than Obama. But the whole thing is that like conservatives really like, especially in the campuses, because so refresh my memory. Were you going to college in the Chicagoland area?
I was down in Peoria, which is about 2.5 hours away from Chicago. Yeah. So it was like a little, it wasn't as south as like say Springfield, but it was like central Illinois. So it was like 2.5 hours south of where I am in Naperville. So so I'd say, you're still in a very blue state, which Chicago makes it a blue state. Oh yes, that's the unfortunate thing is that but Peoria is very Republican. Like it's very very Republican down there. It's not, but again, Chicago like. And Illinois is a big state. Like, there's a lot more to Illinois than Chicago, but unfortunately, Chicago politics just rules everything, which is very frustrating. Well,
here in Michigan, it's the same way. Detroit, Lansing, Flint, those places are basically, and the rest really are, for the most part, red. Especially my county is completely, just utterly red. And the sad part is that those big cities seem to be turning our states into blue states, regardless of the fact that really, I know that they're high population, but really most of the state is red on both Illinois and Michigan's part. And it drives me up the wall when I look at these elections, and especially both of our governors. And here's another thing that United said: both of our governors suck.
Well, Illinois is known for having corrupt governors. Like, the joke in Illinois is, like, that if we don't have a governor in prison, it's weird. Like, we're just kind of used to those. Like, usually, like, the governor's supposed to be in prison, basically, at some point. Like, it's weird now, of course, that, Blagojevich is now out of prison because, of course, Trump pardoned him. And, of course, there's a whole history of that. Blagojevich, right before he went to prison, he was on The Apprentice. Right before he went to prison, the Celebrity Apprentice. And then he went to prison for a while. Then years later, of course, Trump becomes president and pardons Blagojevich and lets him out. And then Blagojevich is saying... Then Blagojevich says that Pritzker is corrupt. And it's just like, okay, so if you have Blagojevich saying that you're corrupt, it's not good.
Yes, okay, like it's like, take it from me, I suck. This guy sucks more, and you gotta.
That's where we're at right now, though. It's like we have a guy who's like all about wants to legalize gambling. He got pot legalized. Yay, we can get high now at least during quarantine. So that's something, I guess. But
same. That's the thing. I'm wondering if Michigan and Illinois are in like a running gun battle to see who's the worst. But so far, my governor is winning this one.
Oh gosh, I feel so bad for you. Like, it's just
we are. She is just. I just shared it on Twitter. Stephen Crowder's video about how Governor Gretchen Whitmer's the worst, because she really is. She is power hungry like you wouldn't believe. But I got friends and family out in the Chicagoland area that are saying the same thing about your governor. It's driving them up straight up the wall, because this is a big major power grab.
Yeah.
And on top of that, we were talking about Michael Knowles. I just watched his video yesterday talking about Fauci, how he went from president to pope.
Yes. Now Fauci is overstepping his bounds again by saying that Catholics should not receive the Eucharist, which for us is like awful, because again, the Eucharist is the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Jesus, and we receive him every time we attend Mass, and so to not be able to receive Jesus, I felt an emptiness in my soul for these past 2 months, almost 3 months now, of not being able to receive the sacraments. Like, to me, I feel so empty inside, because I don't have Jesus. Yes, I can still pray to him, I can still read the Bible, but that's again why another reason why I want everyone to be Catholic, and why I want everyone to be united in the sacraments, because there was such a profound grace and strength that you get when you receive the sacraments that is just so, it's indescribable, really. It fills you, it completes you. Some people, this is kind of, this might sound a little out there, but, some people have compared it to, the sexual act, in terms of, that is Jesus giving himself fully to you, just as, a husband and wife give themselves fully to each other in the marital act. It's the marital act between God and man. It's God giving himself fully, body, blood, soul, and divinity, and you just receive him. He just comes to your soul, and you just receive all the graces and stuff from him. He just pours them out, and without that, it's just you just feel like a desert. You just feel desolate. So for Fauci to say that, Catholics, you can go back to Mass, maybe, but only in groups of 10 people or 50 people, whatever number they decide to come up with. But you can't receive the sacrament. You have no way, you can't say that. And the thing that's even more upsetting is that the bishops, for the most part, I can't speak for every bishop, every diocese in America at least, but the bishops have largely been silent. And that's just, again, another blow to Catholics. To know that our spiritual fathers, the ones who are supposed to fight for us, and in the past, bishops have died, have been martyrs for the faith, they've been, beheaded and stuff, and yet now these guys are just kind of lying down, or they're just kind of being okay, we're just going to listen to the governors. When the governors say we can open up, we'll open up. Other than that, it's too dangerous. You have to wear a face mask. If you go to Mass, you can only have 10 people, 50 people. If it's too many people, we're going to turn you away. We're actually going to say, no, you can't go into the church. There's too many people in there. It's just very discouraging right now. But at the same time, I recognize that they're just sinful men. That, all men are sinful.
Exactly.
And stuff. None of us are without sin. And I'm just trying to stay true to the faith, and just trying to stay as close to Jesus as I can. But it's hard, and it's just very discouraging. You just see everyone around just being very discouraging right now. I just feel like we're just in a really weird time of just desolation and stuff, and I'm just trying to trust in God and be what is your plan here, God? When are you going to free us? Maybe it's going to be like the Israelites in 40 years in the desert. I hope not. I hope it's not 40 years in the desert, because I can't really do a few months, but...
No, I don't, and I don't think it is. to be honest with you, people are rising up, because
Yeah.
first of all, we're in America. Okay. We are
I
the
mean, I
land
don't
of the
want
free.
people to rise up to the point of like Antifa and what we've been seeing in like Minneapolis and other cities
Right.
where they're like burning stuff down. Like that's the other thing. It's like I know sometimes people on Twitter see me like I can be very combative, I can be very aggressive about the Catholic faith, but I would never ever dream of like burning down a Protestant church or like violence or anything against Protestants.
Right.
I think there needs to be some kind of balance, some way of like pushing back and stuff and being like, we're not going to take this anymore, but not going to that extreme of the like what we were seeing with Antifa or I don't even know what groups they've been like who are just setting fire to everything and looting Target and stuff. Like, don't do that, but just like somehow get the message across that we're not going to take this anymore.
Right, and you shouldn't. Here's the thing, and I've talked to many different Protestants and Catholics alike about this issue, and then we see about what the Daily Wire has been saying. We see about what Crowder's been saying and the Blaze and all them, and they're saying that this has gone too far. Now, when I hear, like when I was watching Michael Knowles, what really broke my heart was when Dr. Fauci was saying, like, you can't take communion. Okay, so here's the thing. Communion is very sacred to both Protestants and Catholics. Right. Catholics take communion every single Mass. And it is very
almost every day. We can do
yeah.
it every day if we want to. Yeah,
right, exactly.
And we say, just a minor clarification, but we receive the Eucharist. Like,
yes.
It's not something to be taken. It's something that we receive from the priest. But
okay, well, yeah. I remember it's been a long time since I've been to the church.
Oh, of course.
Bear with me on that. But the other part of it is that I'm thinking to myself, it's bad enough I'm seeing priests with squirt guns doing drive-bys.
Oh, gosh.
But now, like, Fauci wants to interfere with the Holy Communion. No.
What power does he have? He doesn't have any. He's just a doctor or whatever.
He's a doctor.
Michael calls him like the great exalted Dr. Fauci or whatever. I'm just like, when did we exalt this guy? When did we give him like what like? And like, I'm just trying to think back. Like, I can't even remember what life was like before quarantine. And at some point, it's like, was there really a time before quarantine, like when we had this thing called freedom, where we could walk outside without wearing a mask, like where I could walk into the grocery store and not feel like I'm going to get arrested if I don't have my mask on? Like,
right. And here's the thing. That's it. Part of me is like feeling like, especially from the left, they're wanting us to do this. This is a leftist paradise. Okay. Closing of churches, living off the government.
Oh yeah.
Basically having everything like groceries sent to you. They can just stay at home and not do anything. This is a complete leftist paradise.
It is because when you don't have God, like you need something to fill the void. Like St. Augustine once said, our hearts are restless until they rest in thee, O Lord. And I think it's true that everyone does have like a God, what they call a God-shaped hole in their heart. And so how are you going to fill that hole? Are you going to fill that void with God and with Jesus, or are you going to fill it with materialism? Are you going to fill it with, all this godless stuff that we're seeing? And some of the things I've been seeing from the violent protests, like I don't claim to be smart enough to know the reasons why and stuff. I know the stuff about, with race issues and stuff. And of course I condemn the police officer who brutally killed.
Oh yeah.
Who brutally killed George Floyd, of course. But I think that when you don't have God, you just have this inner restlessness, and what are you going to do with it? How are you going to channel it? And I think sometimes it just comes out as rage, it comes out as violence, or it could just come out as like you make the state God, like you make governors and politicians your God. Like that's who because everyone worships something. What are you going to worship? You're going to worship the governors and stuff, and what is it like? I think sometimes people just get so caught up in like, I just want to do whatever I want. Don't tell me what to do. I just want to live, and people just want to get pleasure. They just want to just try to get as much pleasure as they can out of life. They don't want people telling them what to do. They want people interfering with their pleasure. It's just all about me and stuff. And it's like at a certain point, even if you had like the maximum amount of pleasure in this life, that's not going to sustain you. That's not going to fulfill you. You're going to feel empty afterwards. Like, even if you have like all the fun in the world, you have all the riches. I mean, look at celebrities, look at, some of the richest people in the world who have all the money, who have all the houses, big houses, they go on vacations. They're not happy. And so, and I mean, I think that this is like the godless utopia. It's fantasy. You think that you're going to be happy with our God, and it's not true. Like every single time people try to be happy with our God, it never goes well.
No, it never does.
Always fails.
It always fails.
In
I agree.
in the Old Testament, people were like, we want a king, and then the king, God gives them a king, and then it doesn't really work out, and they're like, oh, sorry, God, like, actually, we do kind of need you. They kind of always realize that.
And that's the thing, like,
and if you kick God out enough, God's going to be like, okay, like, I'm not going to force myself, like,
no, that's
like you guys to it, and then you see all this destruction. You're like, well, is this what you guys want? All this destruction? Is this your pleasure? Good job, you guys. Like,
he told
I'm
us.
not having fun. Who's having fun right now?
No, he told us. That's people. He kept saying, "Let me be your king." And people. I mean, I'm reading through both First and Second Samuel right now, and just how like God wanted to be their king, and people just kept crying for a king. And we want to be like, that's the thing. They were comparing themselves among themselves, just like what Paul said. They were comparing themselves among themselves and measuring themselves by themselves. And he said, are not wise. What happened? They wanted to be like the other nations around them. Well, they have kings. Let's us have a king too. God was trying to separate them even on that, saying, hey, you do this, guess what's going to happen? And God proved himself right again. Even though you had David, who messed up royally, Saul messed up really royally, and then you had Solomon. Even though they were great kings in their own right for their time, they messed up just so bad. And then next thing you know, it was just a struggle after struggle after struggle with these guys, with their kings, And Israel never had a good king since, and Judah had it every once in a while.
Yeah.
It was horrible. And
and just like, I just keep thinking, like, what if we were to try doing things God's way? Like, what if, we were just to try to surrender and trust in God, like, even if it doesn't seem like it might be the most fun. Well, like, whoever said the life was supposed to be about having fun and having pleasure? Not that it's wrong to always have pleasure all the time. There's definitely a lot of virtuous pleasure you can have in this life. Like, God's not saying that you have to stay in sackcloth forever, but whoever said that, like, that's the point of life is to pursue pleasure and to pursue selfishness and stuff. What if we just tried to live the way he wanted to? And what if we tried to model ourselves after him? And I know I'm not the best example. I feel daily, especially on Twitter, especially when, I'm quarantined and I spend way too much time on Twitter. I'm a Twitter-aholic, I call myself. I definitely need to go join a 12-step program once this quarantine ends and I don't have to be socially distanced anymore.
Okay.
But what if we just tried to live like God? Like, what if we tried to live like Jesus to some extent? What if we just, stop pursuing our own pleasure and stuff? And what if we just tried things his way? Like, even just restoring the family and stuff, and just restoring his plan for marriage and family, I know it's kind of crazy, but what if, kids were to have a mother and a father instead of having all these broken families, or trying to now have two fathers or two mothers? It's like, what would if we were just to have the basic family again? What if we were to focus a lot more on friendship instead of romance at a certain point? That's another big thing that I'm passionate about, is that not every relationship has to be romantic. You can love someone as a friend. You can be good friends with someone without there ever being romance involved. Romance is great and stuff, and it's great if you're pursuing marriage, and marriage is the sacred union of a man and a woman who give themselves really fully, fruitfully, and faithfully to each other. But what if we just tried doing things God's way and just stop trying to pursue all these different weird forms of romance and stuff? What if we just try to just love each other, be friends, help each other get to heaven? I mean, that's the whole point of life, is to help each other grow in holiness, help each other get to heaven. We're all in this thing, instead of just, succumbing to our emotions, succumbing to feelings and stuff, and then, setting fire to cities. Like, what if we try things God's way? That's just...
because they think, okay, so many, I've talked to many agnostics before, and they would tell me, my
brother's agnostic, so
atheist too. And the reason I talked to them about, like various different things about our faith, and they always try to tell me, well, it's just, I'm not worthy of it, which I tell people nobody's worthy of it. That's why we have Jesus. But then there's others that say, well, I feel like I have to give up everything that is fun in life. And it's like, well, think about it. I think being a Christian has got to be one of the most fun things I've ever encountered.
Yes.
We have such a bad reputation. It's like, no, it's not. We're not killjoys. We live life to the fullest. We discovered life through Jesus. It is amazing, some of the things that the peace I wake up, even in the most troubled times. Like, I mean, look what we just lived through.
Yeah.
And yeah, do I have my struggles? Do I have my fears? Do I have my doubts? Absolutely. Everybody does.
Yeah.
You know, but regardless, I always come back to Jesus, and I always have peace. I always have blessing.
Yes.
And it's amazing the relationship I've developed. And the more I get into his word, the more I spend time in prayer, the more I go to church and fellowship with other fellow believers, the more I have conversations like this with you, where, you know, like we call from two different Christian ends of this perspective. And yet here we are loving Jesus and excited about Jesus. And on top of that, just how wonderful his peace is, even throughout these whole storms.
Yeah.
And, you know, Fauci can say what he wants. The president can say what he wants. All of them, the left can say what they want. They will never change Christ. They will never change who we are. And they'll never be able to stop it.
They can't take that away from us. Like, I mean, the Catholic tradition, I mean, we have Margos all through the centuries who have been persecuted, who have been killed, beheaded. Right. I mean, and who have just suffered so tremendously, and they stay true to Christ ultimately, like, no matter what. Like, they can't take your love for Christ away. Like, that's something that no one should be able to steal. No one should be able to steal that conviction. Right. And again, and for me in the Catholic tradition, we have, you know, religious sisters and nuns and priests who all take a vow of chastity and celibacy, who never get married, who never have any romance, and yet they are now. There's a lot of sinful priests and stuff, like, obviously, like, I condemn that. But especially with religious sisters and religious nuns, they are some of the most joyful, peaceful people I've ever met. I have friends who are in their 20s who have joined cloistered convents, and cloistered means that you take, you know, the traditional habit that you would see, and they shut themselves off from the world. They just pretty much pray, and they work in the convent, and that's all they do. And yet they have so much peace and so much joy in them. And they don't have anything. They don't have money. They don't have possessions. They don't have romance, but they have Jesus, and they are just so peaceful. And that's like such a model for me, because they just have that peace that nothing can take away. And I'm like, wow, like, you know, going back to what you're saying, you know what I mean? Again, like, you know, you try to replace God with things, and it never works. No, it doesn't. And you can't. And I believe this within every human being, there is. And no matter how they try to, because atheists and agnostics try to shut it out, but you don't argue with them intellectually, argue with them through the heart. Yeah. Because that's one of the things I've done before. It's like, well, no, you really know there is a God. You can try to bury him in drugs and sex and whatever, but you know for a fact there is a God. Yeah. You're just trying to deny it, and Paul talked about, like, every creation, everybody knows. Creation reveals itself. Yes, God made us for him. God made us for him. He made us to know, love, and serve him, and he left a part of himself in all of us. And some of us just, you know, try to cover it up and stuff, but at the end of the day, he left a part of himself for us. And I think that he just wants us all to be united in him, and just, you know, and again, getting back to, I mean, all the different Christian traditions, you know, he just wants us, he doesn't want all the contradictions. He, you know, he doesn't want us, you know, to be arguing about infant baptism and stuff. Like, he left us the way, like, it was originally called the way, originally when Saul was converting to Paul, and stuff. And then, you know, they eventually came up with the name Catholicism being universal. It was meant for everyone. It meant for everyone to just come in, and everyone to just be united in Jesus and in his presence in the sacraments. And it's just like, why don't we try God's way? Like, again, that's just my biggest thing. Why don't we just all try surrendering to Christ and just being like, Jesus, I trust in you. Take care of everything. Like, that's just a simple prayer that Catholics have. It's just, Jesus, I surrender myself. Take care of everything. I trust in thee. And it's hard. I fail. Again, I'm so far from perfect. I need all the graces I can get. I need him to forgive me my sins every day. But I think as long as you're striving for that, as long as you're striving to know Jesus as well as you can, and you're not closed to him in any way. Right. No one's perfect. And, you know, people make mistakes. Everybody falls. But that's the thing. He paid the ultimate price for our sins. We don't have to worry about whether we're good enough, because guess what? We're not. It was made good for us. He was made. He gave that his life, because he was perfection.
And now we're clothed in his perfection if we believe. But the thing is, we have to believe. We have to take forth that step.
Yes,
and
we have to take that step. We have to believe. We have to repent. We have to ask for his mercy. We have to, because that's the unforgivable sin, is when you're like, you know what, I don't want your mercy, God. I'm good. Like, I don't need it. Like, that's something you never want to say, is like that. I don't need, like, I know that when Jesus comes, either when I die or when Jesus comes back, whichever one comes first, I'm just gonna be on my knees and just being like, Lord, have mercy on me. Have mercy on my sinful soul. Like,
there's people I talk to. It's like, well, I have a lot of questions for God if I get to heaven. It's like, no, you won't. You're going to be.
I mean, I do. I say that too. I mean, like, sometimes I'm like, especially in the summertime with mosquitoes and stuff. I will want to ask God, like, really, why did you have to make mosquitoes? Like, what was in your head with the whole mosquito thing? And then even with some stuff about like being a woman and stuff, like TMI, but like PMS and stuff, I might want to ask him a little bit about that. Like, was that really necessary for women to have to go through that once a month? But I mean, at the end of the day, it's gonna be like, just Jesus, have mercy on me. Like, remember all the prayers I said, Jesus. Remember that I know I fell a lot. I know I sinned a lot, but I tried. Like, I tried to love you as well as I could with all my weaknesses. I tried to love you, Jesus, and I tried to get others to love you, like, even imperfectly and stuff. And I just want people to know that they are so deeply loved. At the end of the day, like, that's what I want people to know, is that they are loved by Jesus, whether they know it or not, whether they think he exists or not. Like, because let me tell you, atheists, Jesus exists whether you want him to or not. Like, some
things are true whether you believe it or not, and that's definitely Christ. Christ is, and if you look at, and well, before I even get into that, I want to answer a question real quick.
Sure.
Says Pastor G, I can't find your full name. There's a Pastor Greg Laurie. I am not Pastor Greg Laurie. Okay, he is a very famous preacher out from California. Really cool guy. I like him, but I am not. I am not Pastor Greg Laurie. Just giving you a heads up on that. So anyway, back to what I was saying before. Nobody has ever made an impact on this planet more than Jesus Christ. Nobody. And if you look at it, and this is what really got for me. I mean, I won't go into my full testimony, but it's kind of similar to yours, only opposite, where I did go to a Catholic church for a while and felt more in line with Protestants, particularly Pentecostals. But the whole point I was trying to make with that was Jesus, with his teachings, because I've always believed in Jesus and I've always believed in God, but I never really like made a commitment to him. And so what got me was the fact that not only did Jesus, like, historically was real, you know, and even atheists and agnostics, most of them will agree with it unless they really are just ignorant. But the fact that he made such an impact on this planet to a point where our date is revolved around his birth and death.
Yes, AD. And the funny thing is that the secularists now, they want to do, you know, Common Era and BCE and CE, the Common Era. But the date they use for differentiating between BCE and CE is still the date of Jesus. They just
Common Era,
that little power, but they still use that. Like,
give me a break. Common Era, is that really how? I got so upset about that, but we teach our children differently, and you know. But the other part of it is that if you look at the major world religions, if we talk about Islam, if we talk about Judaism, if we talk about Buddhism and Hinduism, Jesus is in those religions, the major world religions, one way or another, either by a prophet or a good teacher or an example or even another God. But how is it that Jesus made such an impact on all these other major world religions? There's got to be something about this guy. Yes. And obviously these world religions didn't think he was a lunatic. They just didn't think that he was the Son of God.
Right. I think it was C.S. Lewis who had the Lyle lunatic or Lord theory about Jesus. Right. I think it was him who originated that. Like, because like Jesus, he has to be one of the three. Like, he's the Lord, Lyle. He was either a Lyle, he was a lunatic, or he's the Lord of all. And honestly, that's actually one thing I would love to someday meet Ben Shapiro or someone like him, because with Ben Shapiro, someone who's very interesting, because he's a Jew among Christians of various denominations at the Daily Wire, but he's the Jewish one. And I would just love to pick his brain. He has like said different things like here and there, but I would just love to really like go deep with Ben and just really see like what he thinks of the person of Jesus. Like, because to me, like as a Christian, like, you know, I see all the Isaiah prophecies about Jesus in the Old Testament, and it's just very obvious to me that, like, of course, the suffering servant itself is referring to Jesus.
Right.
But I would love to get like Ben's take on it. The way I see Ben is that he, like, as Jewish as Ben is, that's how Catholic I am. Like, I think we have like the same for our faiths, but it's just like the different faiths. And the way I see Christianity and Catholicism is that they are fulfillments of Judaism, because Jesus said, I did not come to abolish the law, but to fulfill the law. So he fulfilled Judaism. All of Judaism is fulfilled in Christianity. And I would just love to just really go deep with Ben and just really see like what he thinks of Jesus, like even just as a historical figure and stuff, and just what he thinks about the crucifixion and the resurrection and stuff, and like how we have all these testimonies, you know, from Paul and Peter and John and like Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, obviously. It's just, we have all these like testimonies and stuff. It's not just religious, it's historical testimonies as well. You know, like he was crucified on Pontius Pilate. Like Pontius Pilate was a historical figure and stuff at the time. And I would just love to like discuss with him and just be like, where's the disconnect and just how does he perceive that and stuff? Because like, I don't know, I mean, like, what do people make? Because for me, it's like, well, Jesus died and then he rose again, even though I wasn't there. Like, we have very credible testimonies and very testimonial evidence of Jesus. So it's like, why is it so hard to accept him?
Well, I've talked to a few Jewish. My dad's side of the family is Jewish.
Oh, interesting.
And the thing is that, well, they weren't really Orthodox though, and so I didn't really take their I should say their opinions about it to heart too much. But I did talk to some other Jews who, you know, and a couple of them told me that they had a hard time accepting in connection with what they've read in the New Testament to the Old Testament. And I'm like thinking, and you must not have studied the Old Testament as much as you thought, because I've seen so many connections that label that Jesus falls right into, including the prophecies you mentioned by Isaiah, the suffering servant. And they could not, they believed that Jesus or their Messiah was going to be different. He was going to be a conquering king, kind of like David and Solomon. Well, David, not so much Solomon. And
I sometimes wonder, like with Ben, because Ben's so political and stuff. I'm not that I want to get into like analyzing Ben, you know, but just I'm just kind of saying this example. I feel like maybe that how political he is, because he's always going on about how you know, the Messiah is going to be political. He's going to restore Israel, and I just wonder if like sometimes like if maybe like for someone like Ben, like it might be like just like that mindset of just that bias of thinking that it's going to be political. It's all going to be political, and it's actually like no, the Messiah is actually deeper than that. Like Jesus is Messiah. He cares more about our souls than he does about politics and stuff. Like, I mean, at the end of the day, like, you know, that's why you can't put Christianity like as on the left or the right, though I think at this point Christianity would be more conservative, because leftism and liberalism really much rejects everything with Christianity, but it transcends, like Christianity transcends politics and stuff. And Jesus like is higher than that. Like, he's not about, you know, this world. He's about our souls and about our holiness and stuff.
It's
and I
much
think
bigger.
Like, it's much bigger than just politics and just about, you know, tax rates and stuff. And like,
come on, I mean, well, it's the thing about Jesus, and I've tell people, you know, because people ask me, you think he's Democrat or Republican? It's like, he's neither, because those are man-made institutions in the right of is in politics, not even the church, but politics.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'd say like he would go with what is going to line up with his word and what lines up with how he perceives the world and how he runs the world. And, you know, I lean towards Republicans just simply because they lean more towards those values.
Exactly.
And I'm not going to say that, you know, again, I don't put a political party on Jesus. It's like, you know, I don't see Jesus running around with a MAGA hat or anything like that, you know. He's higher. He's higher than that. God is always higher than country. Yeah. And that's the way I've always seen as far as Jesus is concerned. I do real quick. I want to kind of go to the chats because we've gotten a couple of them that were a lot. You've got some fan people here. I just want to tell you.
I do.
Let's see. You got Jesus loves you and nothing you can do about it. Amen, Adam. I agree with you 100%. So charming and joyful, Margo. Nice to see and hear you.
Thank you. I don't know who LTB is. I don't know their initials. I can't figure out who that would be. But thank you.
Reveal themselves. The silence of most bishops is deafening. That is very true. And here's the thing: I'm not going to pick on Catholic bishops. It's a clergy of all, Catholic and Protestant. There's been a lot more silence, although I think there's some more that are rising up on both ends. People are getting fed up, and I agree. But I don't know, and I'm trying to be as graceful and merciful on the clergy on both ends as possible. But
yeah, I'm failing at that right now. Like the whole merciful stuff, and like I am praying for them because Jesus says, "Pray for those who persecute you and pray for your enemies." And so I just never thought my enemies would be my spiritual fathers. And so there's a lot of anger that I've been dealing with too. And I just, again, just not being able to have like a church to go to, not being able to adore Jesus in the Eucharist as Catholics do. Not being able to have those like places that were just so sacred to me. And they were kind of like, I hate to use the word safe spaces like that the left uses, but like church is kind of like my safe space.
It's a sanctuary.
It kind of feels like it's been taken from me and stuff. And like, praying in my room praying outside or whatever. I mean, that's great, but it does not compare. And there is a level of anger that I do have towards the bishops right now because like there's more expected of them. Like they're supposed to be the spiritual fathers. They're supposed to, be the ones who fight for us. And same thing with Protestant pastors and stuff. Like they should be standing up and being like, hey, we're not going to take this from the state officials and from governors.
And some on both ends have. They are not happy with what's going on. And especially with Dr. Fauci, Dr. President, Pope, whatever the heck he wants to be at this point in time. And again, Protestants will rise up right alongside of you and all the Catholics saying, no, you know what? This is sacred to Catholicism. I fight for your rights as an American because you deserve that. We deserve our freedom of religion, First Amendment. That's what it's all about. Now, another one, we got Margo. I thought you were talented. Now I know for sure.
Oh, stop!
You got some fanboys and girls in here. That's awesome. I'm just
I'm a nobody. That's the thing that like is so crazy to me. Like that I'm on a live stream and I was like I'm not a blogger. I'm not an artist. I'm not like someone who's in the National Review. I'm not a podcaster. I just have a Twitter and I just tweet things. And for some reason, people like Jeremy Boying and Michael Knowles are following me and interacting with me on Twitter. I'm like, I don't know why. Like I literally a nobody. Like I don't have any credentials really. I don't have a master's degree. I just love the Catholic faith. I'm just very passionate, and for some reason, it attracts a core of people. So
and you know what though? Those are just labels. Why you are people like you for you, and that is
sometimes both ends.
I'm here. I hear you on that because here I am. Like I'm doing a live thing. I've had people follow me, and if you've seen some of my practice live streams, I bomb like the heck of it. But you know what? People have encouraged me. And War Like Fire on Twitter, I'm talking to you. You've been such a blessing. And on top of that, Fighting the Void has put me on their show twice. Yes. And I am totally honored about that. So we're going to say, hola, Margo. Glad to hear your story. That's Juan
my
Pablo.
Friend Juan. Yes, he goes down in Oklahoma. So hola, Juan. Great to have you here.
Great to have you, Juan. And I am not going to butcher the rest of your name there because I'm just...
I have no Spanish ability.
And so Juan is in the house. Margo's biggest fans are watching.
Yes, my good friend Adam, also from Oklahoma. Actually, you should check out, even though you're not Catholic, I highly recommend checking out Adam's amazing podcast. That he has a podcast, and that's also on YouTube and Facebook called The Catholic Man Show, which is all about reclaiming masculinity, and it's all about the virtues. Like that's what he and his best friend it's an amazing show because Adam co-hosts the show with his best friend David, and they've been best friends literally since childhood. They grew up down the street from each other, and now they live down the street with their wives and their children. And it's an amazing thing. They go live usually on Sunday nights or Monday nights, and then they put out the podcast on Thursdays usually. And it's just a show about reclaiming masculinity, about living out the virtues as a man, specifically Catholic man, but again, it's good for everyone. They have 3 things they do on their show. They love to drink a manly beverage, usually some kind of whiskey or something. And then sometimes they'll enjoy a nice cigar or something. And then they talk about virtue, and they feature some kind of man gear item. And then they just talk about the virtues. And I mean, I love the show too, and I've gotten to be good friends with them, even though I'm a woman. I'm not a Catholic man, but I am a Catholic woman. And I love hearing them talk about the virtues, and I love their friendship. Like, just their story and their friendship is just something that's so remarkable to me, that they've stayed friends for over 30 years. And then they grew up down the street from each other, and now they still live down the street from each other. They have wives and kids, and they have beautiful families, and it's amazing. So definitely check out the Catholic Man Show. I highly recommend it for all Christian men and even Christian women. So definitely check them out.
That's Adam's podcast?
Yes, the Catholic Man Show.
Catholic Man Show. Okay, well, if he can put the link on the chat, then I definitely will. It'd be good. Let everybody check that out, because that sounds really awesome. I mean, yes, it might be more geared towards Catholics, but here's the thing: they keep saying how toxic masculinity is how it's destroying our culture, and it's no, we need masculinity in our culture.
You need it.
That. Okay, so Carl.
Yeah, this is my good friend Carl from Twitter and also Facebook as well. He lives down in Australia, actually, so I have no idea what time it is. It's Sunday, sometime in the future. It's like probably Sunday afternoon or something right now in Australia. So.
They're I think at least 10 hours ahead, depending on what part of Australia.
Yeah.
I've got a friend, Lethal Lightning. He's awesome. I follow him a lot. Not for the faint of heart, by the way. Just letting you know, my Christian, Catholic, and Protestant friends. I am been hanging out with some really awesome people on the entertainment end, and they make some podcasts about entertainment such as Star Wars, Star Trek, DC, Marvel, and all that. If you guys are into that
nerdy stuff that I don't follow too much.
Well, that's my part of my podcast with my daughters, Geekdom for the Kingdom, where I connect them with the gospel. And I think,
that's interesting.
It's awesome. And we've got 2 episodes of Star Wars and Doctor Who so far. I'm going to be doing more in the future on Marvel and DC and all that, but it basically connects the gospel with some of this entertainment, and I met some really cool people along the way, and I got links in my description here where you can check it out. We're going to do High Five Margo.
High five, high five.
I don't know how to. Well, there you go. We just wave. Who knows?
Yeah.
LTB again, London.
London. Yeah, okay. That's one of my friends from Facebook again.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Well, welcome. I'm definitely glad you guys are here. Margo is one Catholic I'd like to meet living in
Adelaide, I think. I don't know if you pronounce that way, but I think it's Adelaide, Australia. Makes it hard, yes.
Sorry we're butchering that. I don't know what part of Australia that is, but we are definitely glad to have you about. And let's see. Margo, you got talent.
Yeah, that's my friend Martha. She lives in SoCal. And yes, from Facebook again. So lots of my Facebook friends popping up here.
And you know what? That's good. That's good. I am very glad that they were able to make. I just spend too much
time on social media, to be honest with you. Like, I just social media. Like, I'm so introverted. Like, doing a video is actually really out of my comfort zone, because I don't know. I'm so introverted that I just love just to be able to like kind of be anonymous on the screen and stuff, and just be able to type through my thoughts and stuff and interact with others that way. But I'm kind of glad to be coming out of my shell and kind of just venturing out into the video world. And actually, I do have to give credit to Blindfolded Bethany, because I saw her on Ginger's channel. Ginger had her on to talk about her experiences at the Daily Wire a few weeks ago, and just seeing her kind of come out and do a video herself was very inspiring to me. And I was like, well, if she can do it, I can do it. And then also, like, just how you were saying at the beginning, how she's a connector and stuff, and how she brings people together. Like, when I did her when I was video chatting with her on Discord, that also brought me out of my shell to kind of like be on video and stuff. So I am grateful for that, to be gaining that confidence.
Well, thanks to the Discord is where I found you.
Yes.
And we followed each other and chatted with each other, liked each other's stuff, and almost debated each other in some cases. I don't think we actually debate, but we kind of had a discussion.
Yeah, I mean, if you ever want to do a more of a debate kind of thing in the future, I'm always up for that too.
Yeah, why not? Let's let the sparks fly. We're gonna light it up like the 4th of July. What do you think?
Yeah, maybe not tonight, but maybe like at some other time in the future. Like, I would love to like actually hear about Pentecostalism and like the specifics of what you believe, because I mean, I know stuff about Lutheranism. I know a little bit about Presbyterian and Methodism, but I do have to say that Pentecostalism is one of the denominations I actually do not know that much about, other than it being a lot about the Holy Spirit. I don't actually know that much about it. So, I mean, in the future, if you wanted to do a discussion and really go into more of like the differences between Catholic and Protestantism or Pentecostalism, I would love to do that in the future or something.
Yeah.
So,
because here's the thing, like we could talk about and like, and I don't know if you call it a debate or not.
Maybe not debate, but just kind of having a discussion.
Because I don't want to, like, here's the thing, like I have enough respect for you and other Catholic friends, like Ginger's one of them, and Michael Knowles, I think very highly of them, to a point where it's like,
I'm just a small fan of Michael Knowles. Like I don't know if you can tell from my Twitter or anything. Like
it's amazing.
I just kind of worship the guy, not really. But he's amazing. Like I can't say enough good things about him. Like just the way he stays so level-headed at all times. Like sometimes I'll watch Ben Shapiro show and Ben will get kind of heated sometimes. Like he'll never lose it. Like Ben's always in control of himself, but he'll get heated and stuff. But Michael just stays so just like calm and level-headed, and he just like has so much joy and stuff, and someone who just seems so genuine and kind and sweet and stuff. And the fact that like, obviously I can't get Ben's attention on Twitter. Like Ben has 1 million followers and stuff. He has no idea who I am. But the fact that like Michael knows who I am and that like he actually takes time for his fans and stuff is just something that's so that I really love about him. And just I'm as soon as this quarantine ends, like as soon as things start opening up more and more, like I'm going out to LA and I'm going to go meet the Daily Wire people because they're definitely a lot of my role models. So I hope to be able to do that.
Oh, Nancy wants to go and get coffee once everything opens up.
Yeah, sounds good.
Well, I see Nancy's got a picture of what looks like Chicago there.
Yeah, I think she's from Chicago as well. So.
Okay, yeah. Well, then that sounds absolutely awesome, and I pray for both your state and our state that they
pray for the world, because I think I was seeing today. One of the people I follow on Twitter was doing a lot of reporting about Chicago and stuff, and the protests are hitting there too. So I'm just hoping that people stay away from the suburbs, because I'm out like 45 minutes away from Chicago. So I'm just hoping that none of the violence comes to the suburbs too much. So
amen to that. I don't think I'm going to worry too much about my area. And I'll pray for what goes on in the suburbs, because it's still pretty high populations over there too.
Yeah.
You can come out to LA according to M. Martinez, but
yes, my friend Martha. I want to, Martha. I want to get out to LA and Orange County. Martha and I have a mutual friend in Patrick Coffin, Patrick Coffin is actually the reason why I discovered the Daily Wire in the first place. It's a funny story, because Patrick Coffin used to be the host of a show called Catholic Answers Live. He did that from, I think, 2009 to 2016-ish. I discovered Catholic Answers Live the summer of 2015, I think, and just instantly I loved the podcast and stuff, because I was super Catholic. That was when I was already super Catholic and stuff, so I loved listening to the show. It's a Q&A radio call-in show that Patrick Coffin hosted. And then I went out to the Catholic Answers conference that they have every year in March 2016 and met Patrick in real life, which was awesome. And then in the summer of 2016, Patrick announced that he was leaving Catholic Answers to start his own venture, to start his own independent podcast that he now has, called the Patrick Coffin Show. And one of the guests that he had on his show in the beginning was this guy named Andrew Clavin. And so
I think I know him.
Yeah, so I had never heard of the Daily Wire before. I think I'd heard the name Ben Shapiro in passing, but I had no idea who Ben was, no idea who Michael was. I didn't know Michael existed. But anyways, after Andrew was on Patrick's show, I was like, okay, Andrew seems funny. I think I'm going to check out his show, the Andrew Clavin Show. And so checked out that show, and then that led me to the Daily Wire, and then that led me to discovering Michael Knowles. I discovered Michael Knowles within his first 100 episodes. So I haven't been there from the very beginning of his show, but I've been there pretty much from the beginning. So it's been cool to kind of see the Daily Wire grow from like 2017 to now in 2020 and see how it's developed and how it's gotten bigger and stuff, and what they've been able to do. So
I've been following that. Well, first of all, I want to say, sorry I didn't interrupt, but I want to say, Pablo Sanchez, it's great to finally see Margo live and hear her story all the way from Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, welcome, Pablo.
We have Saudi Arabia, we have Australia. This is amazing.
Australia, my gosh.
You're making it in the big time.
Oh my God. Well,
wow.
I'm nobody, whatever. And then you come on my podcast and I got people all over the planet stopping by to see you. So I beg to differ. And I'm definitely glad to have you on this broadcast, because this was awesome. Your story was amazing. And
I mean, there's so much to it. I mean, I just gave you like the thumbnail sketch of it. I mean, that's the thing about. I think that's the thing about stories and people's faith journeys is that there's so much that goes into it. And I think that's something that I have to remember too when I'm discussing with people on Twitter. So I don't know where they're at in their life, and I have to remember that like one of the things I have to remember is that like I'm 29 now, and I have to remember that some of the people I'm interacting with on Twitter, those teenagers, like some of them are like 10 years younger than me, and it freaks me out sometimes. I'm like, wow, I'm really old. Not really old, but like they're like teenagers, little people who are like 10 years younger than me who are still like in high school or just starting college or just are working, so they don't necessarily know if they want to go to college and stuff. So I have to kind of remember like they're not where I am, and I have to remember like where was I when I was 19? I was just like I didn't know anything at 19.
Oh, gosh.
So I think that's one of the biggest things I have to remember is that there's so many different aspects of people's stories. Everyone has different circumstances and stuff, but so I think that's something that I need to remember. But I just want people to know just how much they're loved and just, strive for heaven, strive for Jesus, and follow the truth no matter where it leads. Like, that's my biggest advice to people. And just don't be afraid of what might turn out to be true. Like, if Catholicism is true, like, if Jesus really is truly present in the Eucharist, if it's not just bread and wine, like, come on in. Like, we need help as we can get in the Catholic Church. Like, come on in. The Margos great.
Well, that's the thing. Like, and that's the other thing too, because I want to go where Jesus goes. If I believe that you and I, in the end, like, we'll be in heaven and we're going to laugh about this conversation and we're going to find out.
That's the other thing with Catholics. As Catholics, we strive for heaven. We have no idea if we're actually going to get to heaven. I do not presume to think that for 1 second that I am guaranteed heaven. Like, I know, like, it's a day by day because I go by. Again, I'm Catholic, so I don't know the exact verses in Bibles, but I know that St. Paul said, work out your salvation with fear and trembling. And so that's what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to work on my salvation. I hope I get to heaven. I have no guarantee. I could easily send myself to hell. Like, if I don't, if I choose to reject God, I mean, there's no guarantee. Like, I don't want to presume anything. So I just.
Well, can I say that I think you are?
What?
Can I make a presumption that I think that you I think you probably will.
I hope so. Pray for me. That's what Catholics say, is just pray for me, because we don't want to make any presumptions, because for Catholics, presumption is a sin, but just pray for me. Hopefully, I hope you'll make it too. Like, that's what we say. We hope when we trust in God's mercy.
Absolutely. And I want to, before we close, I want to stop. I want to, okay, I already covered on that one. There was another one. Margo can have her own podcast. If you ever decide to, I will gladly subscribe. And
who knows? I mean, that's a big thing. I mean, to get a podcast, there's so many podcasts that's so flooded right now. But I mean, if I feel like that's what God's calling me to do, who knows if I can, who knows? Maybe I'll start a Patreon. I'll be the next Patreon person begging for money, being like, hey, give me money because I need equipment and stuff to do this.
Get like monetized, get some super chats going. That would be cool.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, like, Ginger has his podcast, Fighting the Void. So if if you happen to see this, maybe get her on too, kind of get you
Michael Knowles, if you happen to see this and you want to have me, like, I'm totally up for it anytime. Michael Knowles, if you happen, I'm probably not watching this, but he is,
never
say I'm available.
I never know. Maybe tag his name in it.
Yeah. Oh, I tag him a lot. He probably has like 10,000 notifications. Just Margo Basso this, Margo Basso like this tweet, Margo like this tweet, Margo Catholic like this tweet, and he's probably just like, okay, Margo needs to chill a little bit.
Well, that's the thing, and you know what though, it's all in fun the way I see it, and on top of that, here's the thing: you're technically, because you said you're 29, so that technically puts you in a millennial standpoint.
Yes, I am a millennial,
and the people, there's millennials out there that a lot of them are struggling when it comes to that. And to hear your story about going from a liberal to a conservative, going from religious relativist to a Catholic, and very passionate about both ends. You don't see that in this culture.
Yes.
People, and you mentioned how, like, you felt like you were alone. There's a lot of people, especially in these liberal colleges, that feel like they're alone. And
yes.
And hearing your story will inspire them.
I hope so.
Granted, I just turned 40 this year, so I am.
I was gonna say, like, I thought, like, what are you, like, 30, 31, 32?
No. Oh, bless you. No, I'm just turned 40 in March. I got to celebrate my birthday in quarantine, but my family made it great. And but the thing is that like I'm considered Gen X, which I'm proud of, but
hey, you're not a boomer.
No, I'm not a boomer.
I can't say okay, boomer.
No, you can't. And well, my daughter will say that. I'm like, look, I'm Gen X. You know, she's 13. I'm like, for Pete's sake, you need to get this straight. But the point I'm making is that people, especially the younger generation, the Gen Zs, I believe they're called now, and the generations that are after that, people like my daughter's 13 and my son's 11, and they're rising up, and I'm seeing this statistically too. They're rising up, becoming more religious, becoming more conservative. There's hope on the horizon.
Yeah, there is. I mean, I see a lot of. I mean, there's some like really young people on Twitter that I'm seeing that are really like much stronger than I was in conservatism and Christianity. Who are like already like super pro-life and stuff, and they're super like you know, have the right values and everything already. And I'm just like, really only 17 or 18, and you already like feel this strongly about things like. I mean, and it's funny too, like to think that these people who are watching Michael and who are watching the Daily Wire, and they're like teenagers, just high school students. I wish I had the Daily Wire when I was in high school. I think things would have been different for me. Like if I had stuff like the Daily Wire, instead of like I was just doing the Daily Show with Jon Stewart again, and it's like if I had like more conservative options back then. If podcasts were not really a thing when I was in high school back in the 2000s, but yes, I mean I love seeing the rise of the younger generation.
Now they are. And the thing is, our generation does have more conservative choices now. I'm so grateful for it, because nowadays we have more choices. We have Louder with Crowder and Blaze and Daily Wire and all these other conservative outlets that have risen up. And so that gives us a voice, that gives us a seat at this table media-wise. And Andrew Klavan talks about how we need to step up and start helping to change the culture in entertainment. And that's why I kind of what I'm doing when it comes to entertainment, interacting with the people I do, because if you're a Star Wars fan, if you're a DC fan, Marvel, you've seen how like these characters have been basically just crapped on by I
mean they just like throw in a gay character here and there. They're just probably I don't know, I don't follow it that much. I'm sure there's probably gonna be gay characters, transgender and stuff, just to further that agenda. Yeah,
and that's the thing. The Hollywood has always been leaning left, but they've gone far left, and now they can't even tell a good story. Everything's all about politics and social justice warriors, and you can't even. And it's the whole get woke, go broke. It's very true. This is what's happening now, and more conservatives are rising up, making better movies, making better entertainment. Look at Steven Crowder. Look at Daily Wire. Those two I mentioned. Some of the things that they do. It's incredible, and people love it, and people view it.
You see where Steven Crowder started off. Even he started off just like in that tiny closet, basically just doing like a radio show or something. And and you see now like where he's grown and stuff, like the studio that he has now, and then now he's like doing a show. He's doing like a morning show now, even and stuff that he started doing quarantine and stuff. Mug Club and stuff. It's amazing, to see how far these guys have come in such a short amount of time.
Exactly. And so with that, now we can look at the fact that now conservatives have more of a voice, and Christianity, because there's a lot of Christian conservatives are rising up, and they're going to start helping to change the culture, even in the younger generations, as all these different shows that we've just talked about have pointed out. And people like us, we do our little podcast here, and look at all the people that are showing up and cheering you on and all that stuff. And I've had people cheer me on, and I'm would definitely love to have you on again.
I'd love to.
And just have a good talk about, Protestants and Catholics. And then we can, we can go on pro-life too. Going to talk about abortion. That's a big, huge issue. Talk about gay marriage and talk about all these different things.
One of the things that I'm super passionate about, I just have a very passionate personality. That's just kind of how I tend to be. So one of the things I'm passionate about is the virtue of chastity, and that is why like I get so heated up and I get so fired up. And I have a whole story about how the Holy Spirit lit a fire on my heart for the virtue of chastity when I was reading a blog post many years ago. But I'm just super passionate about reclaiming God's plan for sexuality and God's plan for how what he wants for human life. And so I love talking about contraception, abortion, pornography. Not that I'm for these things, but I love explaining why they're wrong. Like I love explaining like why they go against God's plan for sexuality. Like I love talking about that. Like a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to talk about sex. It's so awkward. I'm like, bring it on, man. Like I love.
It's part of life, and our culture's made it very screwed up. But like, for example, like with Steven Crowder, he waited till marriage before he had sex. And I did too. I got married when I was 26, and I was a virgin when I got married. My wife was a virgin when she got married. And
I'm a virgin. I don't know if I should say that, but I am like.
Well, but that's the thing. Here's the thing. There's no shame in that. But our culture shames us for doing that. And I'm like thinking, no. How much? I don't have to worry about whether I got a disease. I don't have to worry about whether I got somebody pregnant. And on top of that, the intimacy between my wife and I because of that is heightened. Now I'm not
like she's the only woman that you've given yourself to in that way. Like that's so special, and like it's not like you're just a number. You're not just one among many the way that the casual hookup culture would have us do now. You know, it's like you're hooking up with everyone else that person has hooked up, and it's like that's just so gross and stuff. And it's like no, you want to be the only person. Yeah, exactly. And it's not that we condemn those that haven't. Because there are plenty of people that have become very powerful in. I mean, and of course, the God's mercy is always there, and you can always start fresh. Like you can always start anew. You can always reclaim chastity. You can always reclaim. I mean, technically, you can't reclaim virginity because once it's gone, it's gone. But you can always start again. You can always, His mercy is everlasting. His mercy is everlasting. You can always start fresh. There's always a fresh start. And that's a great way, I believe, to end the podcast tonight. Perfect. His mercy I feel like we can keep going and going, which is so great. It's so great to have this comfort level and just to have this to have a friend to talk about things with. I know you tweeted me that you were going to be shy about you think you might be shy or you might be whatever. I wasn't sure, but like you're just so easy to talk to. So I mean, great job. And I mean, I'll definitely point people to your channel. Absolutely, thank you. And I'm and now, Margo, where can people find you? They can find me on Twitter mostly at Margo Catholic, so very easy, Margo Catholic. And then you can also find me on Facebook, Margo Basso on Facebook, and that's just basically once again. I don't have a podcast, I don't have a blog or anything. Maybe I should probably start blogging because I have so many thoughts. But find me on Facebook and Twitter. Join the party on Twitter. It's fun. Me and Pastor G. We can light Twitter up a lot of times, So I'm passionate about what we believe as far as our church is concerned and where we go on that. But you know what though? Discussions this is how we progress. This is how we learn. Yes. We have discussions about things. We get passionate, sometimes heated. Margo is somewhat guilty of that. I am guilty of that in some cases, especially if you go political with me. But which both of us are very passionate about on, I believe, the right side. Yes. And there's a reason why they call it the right. Yes. Right? I mean, yes. Right is right. Left, yes. I don't know. So right, then it's wrong. Anyway, but on that note, I just wanted to say, and I have the link on the description where to find her on Twitter. Yes. Go follow her. And on top of that, if you guys are watching this, and a lot of Margo fans on here, probably most of them Catholic, if I'm not too mistaken. You guys can all just go to Pastor G on Twitter. You guys can all just go gang up on him and just fight him. Don't gang up on him too much. You guys want some of this? I'm just gonna send out all my friends, and you're just gonna be converted. You can send your priest with your water guns and your drive-bys and all that stuff. Come on, bring it on. No, it's all good. You know what though? I think it's great, and I'm glad you guys came here today. I am very honored to have Margo here, and I'm very honored to everybody that's in the chats. Yes, thank you so much for all the encouragement, guys. guys really helped me feel at ease and stuff. So I'm grateful for everyone who tuned in and everyone who will watch this in the future, who didn't get to watch the lives. I know for me, there's a lot of times that I don't get to catch live streams. I watch them after the fact. So for anyone who's watching later on in the future, hello, it's great to have you. And I hope that this conversation was a blessing, and just know that you are loved by Jesus, and he just wants you to accept his love and just, be holy, my friends.
Amen to that. So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to call it a close. But just remember, God loves you, and keep pursuing the truth. And be sure to tune in next time. And guys, we love you guys so much. Jesus loves you. You guys all take care, and God bless.
God bless. Bye.